Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Thursday Night Talk TNT. I am your host, Justin Aline, and tonight we are looking at the topic, the employee-employer relationship and COVID-19. This is the best place to be after the PM's speech. You heard that right. After the PM just spoke, this is the best place to be at Thursday Night Talk TNT as we look at the topic, the employer-employee relationship and COVID-19. We've been off for a while, but we are back. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back on. And tonight we have a lovely topic for you. And we have a lovely host. And she's all the way in the British Virgin Islands, but she is Barbadian born and bred. And I'm happy to introduce to you Melanie James. But I just want to let you know that TNT is sponsored by the Bridgetown Seventh-day Adventist Primary School and the Barbados SDA Secondary School. Just letting you know that our sponsors tonight, again, the Bridgetown SDA Primary School and the Barbados SDA Secondary School. Those are our sponsors tonight. And you know how we do it. When you have your questions, you just fill them in. We just want to welcome all those of you who are there on Zoom. We want to welcome you to our program tonight. Those of you on YouTube, we want to welcome you. And we have those of you who have your questions. You know, we pause at part of the show and we're going to ask you to, in YouTube, post your questions. We have a producer there on YouTube. And also on Zoom, we have a producer on Zoom to take your questions. So feel free to, post your questions and we have a producer will compile those questions and ask them at the relevant time. Now, before we get into the show and ask Melanie to introduce herself, we're going to pause and we're going to ask God's blessings on tonight's program. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks and we give you praise. Lord, we are thankful for life and know that you are in charge of all employers, all employees. And we ask, oh God, that you will guide this program, this show, guide and direct everything in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, I am really, really happy to welcome all the way. She's in the British Virgin Islands, but I want to welcome her back home. Melanie, welcome back home to Barbados. Are you there with me, Melanie?
I am.
Here she is, the lovely Melanie. Yes, she's here with us. No, so let me just do a little description of Melanie, and then she can also describe herself as well. Now, Melanie James is a labor management and occupational safety and health specialist. Ms. James has a passion for labor relations and occupational safety and health. It is her belief that where there is a marriage of two concepts of any workplace can thrive successfully, and she is driven to share this philosophy. Now, Melanie's role at the consultancy spans the area of human resource management, which exemplifies through her niche area of job evaluation and appraisals, writing and compiling company handbooks, industrial relations, exemplified through conducting disciplinary hearings and negotiating collective agreements. Melanie's safety and health portfolio includes training, risk management, and culture campaign development. Melanie is also the Occupational Health and Safety Manager at the British Virgin Islands Electricity Corporation. So Ms. James subscribes to the philosophy, safety and good employee relations is not a destination, it's a journey. And it's focused on assisting others to come to this realization. What a lovely bio. I want to thank Melanie for accepting our invitation and joining us here on Thursday Night Talk. So Melanie, say something about yourself. That's just a bio. Tell us who you are.
I am a fun-loving, God-like young lady who loves to share
Mm-hmm.
her passion with others. And
Mm-hmm.
as you well, outside of those two passions for labor relations and occupational health and safety, I also have a passion for food and cooking and sharing food with others. So, in all, you can say that Melanie is a young lady who ensures that she can share God, develop others, train and teach others as well.
Great, great, great. Now, Melanie, now this program, especially now we are under you know, what's going on in the world with COVID-19, we understand that relationships would change. Now, what we want to do first is to talk about the employee first. I know that you spend a lot, some time at the Barbados Employees Confederation. So before we begin, let us talk about that. Let us talk about your time at the Barbados Employers Confederation. Tell us about that, a little bit about that.
It was a fantastic time. I would say it's one of the best workplaces in, I can't even say Barbados. I'm going to say the entire world. It was the best launching pad for any employee, regardless of if labor relations was your passion or if it could be accounting. Because at the Confederation, as it is a major consultancy firm, which assists employers in whatever way we can, or whatever way we can. I say we as if I'm still a part of the Confederation, but yes. And there I started out as a research coordinator. And after I completed my certification in health and safety, then I was a research and health and safety coordinator, basically starting up or developing the portfolio for health and safety for the Confederation, ensuring that there was continuous training for the members throughout the year. And one thing that I'm really proud of is conducting in collaboration with the Ministry of Labor and the National Advisory Council for Occupational Safety and Health, pulling together and actually documenting and publishing the statistics for Barbados as it relates to accidents in the workplace. Because while the statistics were there, they were never published. And as a part of the keeping it safe journal that I would have compiled and published at the BEC, we were able to release that information in 2016, 2017. I then went on to be a labor management advisor and safety and health specialist. And that is after further training, thanks to the BEC, always investing in employees and also being able to finish my master's degree while still working full time there.
Right, great. So I want you, for those of you who just joined us, Melanie is Bajan, and I know you will hear that in her accent, and also the fact that she has a lot of, or a wealth of knowledge, I should say, in the employee-employer relationship. So as I said before, we're going to start really with dealing with the employee. Given what is happening now, Melanie, with the change of our working relationship, how would employees now feel going to work in an environment like this? And describe for us what has changed really in this environment.
I would say what has changed, especially for the business professionals, would be for managers and employees. So there's on both sides. Employees who are task driven, who need to be a part of a team and love being in an environment where they are able to feed from the energy of others, would find it hard to work from home, would also find it hard to be physically and socially distant from others. And therefore, we may see in some organizations, not all, reduction in productivity because persons are now trained to adapt to what we call the new norm. Here in the BVA, we call it the new regular. And for them, it's just a bit of finding their own way, being able to complete the task as they would before, finding a new rhythm. For some, it's trying to understand what my rights are. Am I supposed to be doing a million tasks because the boss, in essence, may have laid off 15, and those 15 are not going to be doing any work while they are laid off? But as say the accountant, the bills for the business still need to be paid, and the juniors who I had working with me before aren't working. So now I am doing the task of the entire accounts department. What what am I supposed to be doing this? Is this really my job? And can I really test the employer, or should I just be happy that I have a salary coming in every 2 weeks or every week or every month and be just grateful for it? And as Christians, we know content is being content is good, but we still want to be able to say I have rights and my rights are protected. I still have bills to be paid. I have a family that I want to look after. So being able to balance those things and understanding exactly where do you lie on the grand scheme of the employment relationship.
Yeah. So would you say that as an employee, I am going back to work? Should the first thing should I do is to discuss with my boss, manager, employer, my contract? the terms and references of my contract, given what we are currently under? Should I do that?
I don't, the responsibility really isn't for the employee to bring up that conversation until the situation has arisen that they need to broach it. The responsibility would be for the employer and the management team to strategize and understand what the reentry program would look like and who would be a part of that reentry program and what would their responsibilities be. And therefore, when employees come in, as opposed to employees trying to figure out what's going to happen, having a meeting with all staff or staff individually to discuss what the requirements are, what the future of the business look in the short term, medium term, and long term. If that conversation has not been brought up, the employee has all right to try to figure out what is happening, because uncertainty for an employee can actually breed stress, and that stress can actually, if a person already has mental health issues or already unwell, it can lead that person to be in an unhealthy state. And that in itself will create an environment for our employee that we say is an unhealthy and unsafe working environment. And in that case, the Safety and Health at Work Act protects an employee from an environment that really puts them at risk. And stress is a risk, is actually documented in the World Health Organization list of occupational diseases.
Right. We talk a lot. I glad you mentioned stress, because in Barbados we tend to not focus a lot on it. We have some challenges with stress, and as far as I can remember, if memory serves me correctly, we don't have statute, or we don't have anything, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, dealing with the mental health aspect. I know now, because of COVID-19, we need to do it. So what would you recommend now for an employee who is stressed because of unknown, uncertainty? What is going on? My boss is not talking to me about the future of the company. I'm not sure if I'm going to put on short time. I can see things are slow. What advice would you give for a person now to deal with all of this that is going on as an employee?
So as an employee, you need to take care of your health, mental health, emotional health, physical health. And that therefore means that for you, you may need to take an inventory. How am I feeling? What are my triggers? What are my stressors? Is there any way that I can control them? If I can't control them, is it in the ball, like the ball court of the employer? What can I say to my employer to instigate that conversation about the hazardous environment that has been created because of that stress level that I am now under? And I always tell employees, you have no, stress is not eminently dangerous risk. But honestly, I think how far we're at, you have the right to refuse work. Stress, as I said, is not, you can't refuse work for stress unless I have a friend of mine who actually, when she gets to work, because of the level of work that is constantly placed on her desk, she's one of those persons who run a whole department by herself because everybody else is at home. That her stress levels, her blood pressure level, sorry, is actually approaching stroke level. And therefore, she can say that her work environment is putting her at an immediately dangerous situation, because that means, and I tell people, you really have to sit down and think about these things, because when we think about immediately inherently dangerous or um, something that puts you at immediate risk, we usually think about falling off a scaffolding or something on a construction site. But in the office scenario, those situations or those risk levels are very different for you. And therefore, you have to think about, as I said before, what are the risks? And if it is a mental issue, seeing the situation or the example of my friend, she can say, I have the right to refuse this amount of workload because this is putting my health at risk. You bring the evidence to prove. You don't walk off the job, because the right does not give you that. You're supposed to bring it up with the safety and health officer, safety and health committee. If you don't have that, the person responsible for HR or personnel relations, speak to that person, and have that frank conversation about what the doctor said to you, and let them know, I can't go any longer. It is a right. Employees have rights in Barbados, and I'm very proud to say in Barbados we have a almost very thorough, I'm going to say almost very thorough Safety and Health at Work Act that covers even this. In generality, it speaks to everything. And if it speaks to everything in generality, it means that specifically you can point at anything and say, well, this part of the law speaks to me. I'm getting very passionate, as you realize, and therefore my background is fading in and out. But as you realize, health and safety and labor relations really consume me. And I don't like to see employees or employers feel as though they're taken advantage of because in the situation with the other party, there's some disequilibrium between knowledge of labor relations because it could be in the other direction too. Employees do take advantage of employers who are not fully appraised, sorry, of labor relations. So wherever there's this equilibrium, we need to balance it out and be able to have those conversations with the other party, maybe the employer or the employee.
Okay, great. Now I'm gonna pick back on that a little bit later on in the show. But how should I, as an employee, respond to what I think are unfair and unsafe proposals from my employer now that I'm back out to work? So, for instance, now we are supposed to engage. I'm looking at it like this is a customer-based question. So you have a case where in the earlier times when you have to engage the customers. So there's no physical glass. Watch this. There's no physical glass to separate the customer from me. So I say to my employer, I am not safe. I don't feel safe because you don't provide the necessary things for me to practice my work. What should I do in case like this? Because I don't feel safe.
Okay. So when you are not feeling safe in the work environment, your for immediate responsibility would be to have that conversation with your employer. Now, if your employer has disregarded your claim and you know you have a solid claim for health and safety, you have that right to bring up that conversation with the labor department. Now, the labor department at this point, I think they're working virtually, not from the office directly. So there's call forwarding to them and to their acting senior. So you can call the labor department, let the labor department know, or the in this particular situation, because it is under the task force coming out of the Ministry of Public Health Environment, you can reach out to them and allow them and their team to come and do an investigation or inspection of your workplace. From that inspection, you have the right, as an employee, to have a copy of what has been stated to the employer for remediation or the recommendations that have been outlined. If there's a health and safety committee or health and safety representative, which there should, because the law says once you have more than 25 persons, you should have a health and safety committee, and less than that, a health and safety representative. And the law has been out for more than 2 years now, so there's no excuse for any organization. Your safety and health representative or committee should be sitting down to discuss these things, and the onus then would be on the employer to execute. If the employer does not execute, the labor department can bring action against the employer by prohibiting him from being able to function. So he get a prohibition notice, or we call it information notice. Yeah. So the first one will be an information notice, basically indicating we have had an inspection. You need to get these things prepared by our next visit. If by the next visit the recommendations have not been implemented, they can actually execute a prohibition notice to actually close the business down until they have been able to implement the recommendations that have been set forth by the inspectors.
Okay, great. So for those who are just joining us, I just want to remind you of the simple things we do here at Thursday Night Talk, TNT. We have with us tonight Melanie James. She's an HR specialist. And also this would comprise of industrial relations as well and labor relations. And for those of you who are on YouTube, we have a producer there. So post your questions. We have a producer there. So all of the questions you want to ask Melanie at a specific time in the show very shortly, we will have my colleague coming up and taking all your questions from YouTube. For those of you who are on Zoom, we will have your questions, post your questions in the chat, and the producer there will collect all of your questions, and then we will ask Melanie these questions. Now, you know that labor, sometimes we see things as a conflict between the employer and the employee. And give me a scenario, a situation where these two persons or entities or situations have a marriage.
Have a
Marriage.
okay.
Things are working well.
Mhm. Um, I would say the marriage between good employer and employee relations is it always starts with a good foundation of communication and setting roles and responsibilities straight from the very beginning. Because if you have not set clear targets, then it means that you've left the gate open for anything to happen. And that means it could be disrespect from either party. It means that performance cannot be measured adequately because there was no proper communication, as said, performance appraisal and management. So the communication bridges the gap and constant communication. And I say communication in all via all mediums, and repetition is our greatest weapon, both for the employer and the employee. So being able to have these good communication skills are open between you and the employer is great. Uh, Key personnel to bridge, I usually say human resources is that very strong Brooklyn bridge between the employer and the employee. However, the HR or the personnel officer should be a person who is strong and well equipped. If they're not well equipped or knowledgeable, then that can actually be the crumbling of that relationship because both the employer and the employee rely so heavily on that role to be able to perform as they should. And if that person or department does not function or functions mediocrely, then everything in essence fall apart because there's distrust from both sides. Management cannot trust HR to execute the functions, and then the employees do not trust HR to really rally and petition on their behalf as well. So as an organization, as a small business, and small for small business is even more so important because you have to protect your brand, and your brand is so much more fragile as a small business than for a well-existing commercial entity. So as a small business, it may be worthwhile to invest in yourself because you are as a small business owner, you're responsible for everything. So it will be worthwhile to read up and understand the legislation. The BC's website is very open and easy to access every piece of labor relations or every piece of employment legislation and guides to understanding those things. And if you can't, being a part of the Small Business Association actually gives you membership into the BC. So through the Small Business Association, you actually can get discounted rates for services from the BC and many other entities. Um, yeah, I can go on forever, Justine. So you need to.
Don't worry, you go on because then they're gonna ask about the functions. Because I know that the reason why I ask about the marriage is because persons work in different. We have a lot of different viewers here. So some workers are in government, some workers are private sector, some persons are self-employees, and they need, a lot of advice that you're going to say to us tonight. So hence why I asked you the question about the marriage, because we want at one's level, we want persons as employees to know the law, to know the Shaw Act, the to know the act, to know all of the rights and also on. We also want the employers to know the act as well, and we want the HR managers to practice good HR functions and so on. So let us look at all of the functions of HR. Like, let's talk about from the time a person you're a small business person, you want to attract the best persons into your environment. So you're talking about starting like advertising or job, where you want to have a case where I I want to practice good HR functions, all these HR functions like planning and all these kinds of things. How would you advise a person, a small business, in the small business arena?
Usually, I tell my clients, you need to get the HR view. No, I would usually send them the image and say I can probably put it in the chat. Yes, I can upload it to the chat. The HR wheel is a very simple image and it just gives you the five major parts of the employment relationship. And I actually I don't know realize that I may need to add a separate wheel and it's actually taken off, not just for me, but um, Ron Johnson, I think you know him as well,
Yes and no wrong.
very avid in pushing this component. He's the one who actually opened my eyes to this component when I was working at the BEC, which is branding for HR,
Wow.
branding for your business. because that's where it starts. Not with the ad you put out to attract your employees, but the brand you have as a small business. Would somebody want to come and work with me when they know the brand that I put out there? Do they, when they see me on social media or my business on social media, what kind of people do I attract to my business? And the people you attract to your business to purchase will be the same people you want to attract to your business to work. Once you have your branding, understand what your brand message, your brand identity, what is your brand purpose. Once you understand those things, then we can get into the HR wheel. And the first thing in HR wheel is the recruitment process. And in that process, there are about 2 or 3 steps. That process, you want to be able to communicate, which is the advertising part, what exactly, and succinctly so, the roles and responsibilities of this person, and also the behaviors. So many ads tend to just put um, the competencies and the educational requirements and forget the behaviors that you want to see. And I think that it is very important from very early that you need to let people know what behaviors you want to see in your entity, especially for a small business, because every little error can be a great detriment to our great setback to a small business. So succinctly put out there what you require, both for competencies and behaviors. Once you've done that, you need to have proper recruitment meetings, interviews. When you interview people, don't follow the online basic questions or tell me what your five strengths, tell me about yourself, what was one difficult situation you had before. You really want to get to know these individuals. Sorry to go back to the BEC again, but I would say that was one of the best interviews I had. The longest interviews I've had, it was an hour and a half of an interview, but the my employer at that time knew how to put together a team that works very well. And the first interview was nothing about the job. It was based more about what was happening in the environment around me, how do I respond to some of the things in the news, what were my take on some scenarios, and having open conversation. No, in open conversation, you can see more of an individual than those rehearsed questions, because the same way you went online to choose that first one that says 100 questions to ask for an interview, the employee went and look at that as well. To your prospective employee, you went to look and practice and rehearse those very well. Having open conversation can tell you more about that employee. And there was one question that Ron had asked us when he did branding with us, and it was simple. He was like, Skittles are marshmallows, white chocolate or dark chocolate. And then those kind of off questions get you into a conversation. So what you prefer, white chocolate over dark chocolate? And then you could hear some people say, oh well, I don't really like anything white. I prefer to stick to black, Black Lives Matter. So those kind of things get you to understand the individual. Going through this wheel just is going to take some time, okay?
What we're gonna do, because I know I am a HR person as well. So what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do, we're gonna take those functions afterwards, because we want to look at job fit, we want to look at job satisfaction, we want to then look at appraisals and all those kind of things afterwards. So what we're gonna do now, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna let you all guys know that we are sponsored by the Bridgetown SDA Primary School and the Barbados SDA Secondary School tonight for Thursday Night Talk. If you want to send, you're looking for a place to send your children at the primary level, the Bridgetown SDA Primary School is a great place to send your child. If you have children and they're at the age of 12, 11, 12 going up, and you want a spiritual place to send your child, the Barbados SDA Secondary School is a great place to send your child. At this time, I'm going to ask my colleague, Nicholas Bedford, to get ready, and he's going to take all of the questions from YouTube, all of the questions from Zoom. We have a lot of questions for you, Melanie, and we have a short space of time, so we know that you're capable, so we can just ask you to answer them as quickly and as concise as you can. And so we're going to ask my colleague Nicholas Bedford to get ready, because Melanie has a wealth of knowledge to share with us tonight. So we're going to get our colleague Nicholas Bedford ready to ask the questions. Are you there, Nicholas Bedford?
Very much so, Justin. Thanks for the introduction. And I've been listening carefully to our guest tonight, Melanie James. She is very clear in her explanations, and I want to thank her for that. And tonight we have some questions that have been posted on the YouTube as well as the Zoom chat. These questions are coming directly from our audience, so they're hoping to get some answers. So Mrs. James, your first question tonight that has been posted, this person writes, let me make sure I get it right. They say, my situation at work seems very uncertain. Levels of business have been trending downward. Now with the COVID-19 situation, I have been laid off for 12 weeks. I've read that I may be entitled to severance pay if my employer exceeds the legally allowed time period. Should I apply for it? If and or when it becomes available?
So yes, the once your period for layoff has been exceeded, and that is more than 16 weeks. So 16 weeks. So 16 weeks consecutively, or more than, yeah, more than 12 weeks consecutively. Sorry, or 16 weeks in the 21-week period, and that's according to Section 30 and 39 of the Employment Rights Act. So once that has been exceeded, then the employee, you should keep track of your layoff certificates and the time that you've been on layoff, because once the day has ended, you go back to work. And if your employer has not reached out to you, or when you got there did not issue you with a new layoff certificate for that maximum of 16 weeks that we spoke about, once it goes over that time, you initiate conversation with your employer to find out what is happening. If you have not been given a clear and certain way forward, you can go to the National Insurance Department, indicate to them, carry your layoff certificates, indicate to them that your time has now been exceeded, and they would actually trigger that severance claim with your employer, because the employer is the one who actually has to file it in the first place. So they would reach out to the employer.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. So I'll go to the next question. This person asks, what can be done if a boss reduces my pay, claiming COVID has affected the company's expenses? Yet I see the boss buying new things, example, a car or computer or clothes for themselves. Is it in his right to spend as he sees fit, or can I view his purchases as evidence of violation of my right to be paid fully? And that's a mouthful. If you
Yeah,
want again.
I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
You can't really look at the employer's use of his personal expenses, because in accounting or generally the employer has the ability to, just like you, he's an employee and is paid, so he can, for all you know, he can be using his savings to be paid or to make his purchases, and the employee does not have any right legally in Barbados to see any financial documents outside of those that are posted on an annual basis from your annual report. um Additionally, if he makes purchases, it doesn't mean that the company doesn't have, or does not have the financial capability to pay you more or less. However, if he has the right to place you on reduced hours, which means reduced pay, and not same hours for less pay, unless you would have agreed to that. If you agree to same hours, less pay because you want to keep your job, then that was a mutually agreed arrangement between you and your employer. Outside of that, you cannot use any claim against his personal expenses to say that your reduced hours were unwarranted.
Okay, thank you. I hope that one was clear for our listener. I have another one here. This one is asking, can an employer make you do work outside your job description and fire you if you refuse? Can I sue for wrongful dismissal?
Okay, so that question is in two parts. The first part, can the employer ask you to do things outside your job description? Yes. That's why in all contracts, they have what we call the grandfather clause to say, and any other reasonable request that suit your skills and qualifications, especially in COVID layoffs, what I would call maybe layoff season. What an employer can do by the law, Section 38, subsection 5 to 7. In those subsection, it says that a part of consultation, the employer can actually request or give alternate job arrangements to employees. And it would be up to the employee to say, well, I want to go on layoff, or you, if you don't take the alternate arrangements and you don't take layoff and you don't come to work, then you would have terminated yourself. No, but wrongful dismissal, once it is in a season of layoff where there's layoff is on the table and the employer is trying to provide you with alternate arrangements, as is the requirement by the law, before you're placed on layoff, the employer should find reasonable accommodation for you first. So if you can, as opposed to being the accountant, he says you can possibly know the courier because we don't have one, but we have a lot of things that we want to, we have more delivery trucks that need to be driven. He can say I can accommodate you in that capacity, and this is how it's going to be go, how it's going to go. It can't be at a reduced, too much of a reduced salary, because once the salary has to, not too much, it can't be at a reduced salary because salary arrangements would have to then be renegotiated, or you would have to be given an updated contract to indicate, well, the previous contract will be ceased and you'll be operating under this new contract, which if you agree to, can't still be, it cannot be wrongful dismissal.
Thank you very much. You have kind of started to answer this other question that was posed. It says, can an employer make me sign a new contract because of COVID-19 and fire me or make me redundant because I refuse to sign it?
So the employer, if he wants to temporarily hire you in a different position, can give you a different contract because he needs to formalize a new arrangement between yourself and himself. What I would say is that you cannot be made, well, if it is that the company will cease to operate in that particular job that you have, so your job that you have will no longer exist or will diminish as per the definition in the Employment Rights Act, then the employer can make you redundant or lay you off because he has no work to provide for you. So you as an employee have the ball in your court to decide, well, I'm going to take this job, or I can be made redundant because the employer has no other form of employment for you. I can't hear you.
I'm so sorry. I was just saying thank you, first of all, for answering our questions. There's just one more follow-up question, it seems like, from the first one. And this one is asking, let's see if I can get it right. They're asking what are the things that they should consider before actually making those steps to pursue the severance pay? What are some of the things they should consider? And I believe I'm going to add to it as an employer and an employee from both perspectives. What should be considered on both parties when it comes to this issue of severance?
So as an employee, there are personal things that you may have to consider for yourself. Do you want to pursue severance now from that financial perspective? Is the employer going to be able to pay you right now? Because if the employer is unable to pay you a salary now, would he be able to pay you $36,000 or however much your calculation works out to? The longer you've worked, the larger your severance payment. The shorter you've been there, well, it may be a lot easier for the employer to pay that severance payment. If he's not, then the period, what you should know is that then it has to go before the severance payment council and tribunal, which could take maybe a year, could be shorter than a year. It's Barbados, it may be because of who you know or don't know. And therefore, you may be sitting a very long time before you actually receive word that your severance claim has been accepted and the payment will be made, because once the employer cannot make it, NIS has to make that payment to you, and it will be a loan arrangement between the employer and the severance payment entity. Employer benefits coming out of the NIS. The employer side is it almost quite the same. Can I pay severance? Am I going to enter into this arrangement with NAS, and at what rate, or should I get a loan at a lower rate to pay this severance payment, Or should I try to see how best I can juggle the employees around on a rotation, bring them back in to work on a rotation schedule, reduce hours to see how best I can stretch the funds I have, or adapt my business so that I am able to find new ways of producing revenue for the business.
Thank you very much. And the Justin, before you come back in, the YouTubers, they also have their questions as well. Coming from the YouTube side, YouTubers ask, this person is asking, should we as employees be trained first? And also should we also be able to ask questions in that setting before we go back into work? I believe they're referring to in this setting now with the new normal. The new normal, they're asking, shouldn't they receive some type of training first before they go back out to work and be given an opportunity to ask questions and have their questions answered before resuming the regular duties?
So there should be some form, and training doesn't have to be sitting in a classroom type of setting, but there should be some form of discussion on what the new requirements would be, how you would execute your functions. Justin was talking about there was no physical class before, for the example. If you don't have physical class, are we going to, you have the right to ask questions, are we going to be provided with face shields? What type of mask as the employer will you be providing us with? Because it is our right to have personal protective equipment from our employer for the risk that we're now exposed to. So my recommendation is always, yes, there should always be training. And with COVID, you don't want to be now figuring out your way as an entity when you're opening your doors for the first time.
Mrs. James, thank you very much. I will continue to listen as you engage with Justin, and I'm sure we'll all benefit from your experience. I thank you very much.
Thank you, my colleague. Thank you very much for all the questions that were posed from the Facebook, all the questions that were posed from YouTube, and also the questions from the Zoomers. I like to call them my Zoomers. Now, Melanie, we had a discussion around, I have a question here from a colleague of mine. So let me ask this and then we go back into the HR functions and then we're gonna wrap up with that. Now, would retraining my employees to work other parts of the business, would that be something, given the nature of what is going on with COVID-19, would putting my office to work in other parts of the business be advisable? And then do I need to offer them new contracts given what I will have to do?
No. If it's a part of alternate accommodation as a alternative to layoff, you wouldn't need to issue them with a new contract. You need to have a memorandum or something documented to the staff indicating that there's an adjustment in a role adjustment memo indicating that these are the new rules that you will be now required to execute as a condition of the company trying not to lay off all of their employees.
Okay, great. Right, so just before the break, just before we had all the questions from Zoom and YouTube, we were dealing with the fact of the HR functions and especially into business. Now, many years ago, you were at school, I was at school, Melanie, and the role of the HR manager was not seen as that much important. You have a lot of persons saying, well, we're hiring persons and the CEO will get in and hire persons. No, we see the value of the HR persons. So speak to us on job fit, job satisfaction, and job enrichment and that aspect.
Okay. So in any job, all persons want to know that when I get into this role, I feel as though working in this workplace would be good for me. You don't want to have that sense of I really don't want to go where you antagonize yourself every day, asking yourself, I really don't think this is for me. You put yourself under tremendous stress and agony because of your working conditions. So it's good for both the employer and the employee from the get-go to understand, is this the type of business I want to be working for? Or is this the type of employee that I want to be working for me? That's why the recruitment process is very important. And that's how you find out what's job fit. Doing things outside of the interview, you can also do psychometric testing, which just gives you an understanding of the person's personality type, and you can say whether that personality fits in with the other personalities you have in the department or in the business that that person would have to interact with. So understanding job fit very important, Justin, as you mentioned. Then we get into job enrichment. No one goes to a job to stay, well, most people don't go to a job to stay stagnant. And a part of enrichment is benefiting both the employer and the employee. So employees should be trained regularly. And that training doesn't have, as I said before, it doesn't have to be in a classroom setting. COVID is the perfect way to engage employees online in training. I one of my well, my colleagues and friends, I saw her at her entity during this time. They actually opened up an online platform and they're actually um, recognizing all the employees who completed their online training, posted to their Instagram and praising them for taking the time to set aside and do the training to enrich their knowledge. And in essence, have been enriching the business because at home, they're able to add value to the business now. And there was another thing you talk about that I job
Right,
fit
job satisfaction.
and
Before
jobs
we get into job
job
enrichment.
as well. Yes.
Right.
And with satisfaction, we know so well, Justin, that we always go back to Maslow's theory. And your job should not only be satisfying your basic needs, food, water, um,
Clothing.
financial ability, clothing,
Mhm.
etc. You need a job for, well, for some people who have a low self-actualization, who just want to go to work, get paid, go to work, get paid, go to work, get paid, that's fine for them. But for a person that is not intrinsically motivated, who needs to be motivated by things externally, that job needs to be one that challenges them to rise to the next level. And if you do not provide that type of environment, if the person cannot challenge themselves, then you have a stagnant employee who becomes a disgruntled employee who then sows seeds of badness with the other employees and create a poor working culture for you. So you want to be able to identify those things from early and work with those employees early, understanding what motivates them and how you as an employer can motivate them, talking too quickly, or help them to motivate themselves.
Great. So let's go on to the other parts of the whole HR functions now. So let's talk about the appraisal. Now, given what is happening, the challenges of all this going on, how important is the appraisal? You know that government recently, let me use the word recently loosely, has moved to the PRDS system, the Performance Review Development System. Now that is for government. Private sector, each individual private sector entity may have their own appraisal section. So now let's talk about how important is the appraisal section for an HR practitioner and the employee.
I would say that I usually disband the idea of a performance appraisal because it is a halfway done task. I agree with performance management. Performance management is more holistic than a performance appraisal. Performance appraisal is an activity that is a part of performance management. And if you only focus on appraisal, it means that you're only having these performance conversations once or twice a year. Performance management, on the other hand, though, constantly looks at the employee and figures out how they are meeting the marks that have been set for them, have conversations with them about their performance, and help to engage that employee in being able to meet the targets that have been set. So in the at-home setting that we currently have, I see employees being frustrated by it because they're not accustomed to it. But it is a perfect example to practice performance management. So you're working from home. How else can your supervisor or manager know what you're doing? Dropping your finished tasks in a Dropbox. As supervisors and managers, you should be setting tasks on a weekly basis, having your huddles with your employees, trying to figure out what it is that they'll be working on this week, or you tell them what it is they should be working on this week, depending on the type of job that you're dealing with. And then have the employees report on the progress of those tasks. A lot of times we have people working and we don't have an idea whether the tasks have been executed or not until we came to the end of the appraisal system to find out, oh, 12 months later, oh, you didn't do the task that we set for you back in January. No, management throughout the year, you have review periods. So it's not just at the end, but every 3 months we are going to have this conversation about how far you've come, how far you've gone. So because you mentioned that I work at the BEC before, I'll use that example again. Our executive director at the time We set targets at the beginning of the year, and it is an annual performance appraisal. But every week we had to give our targets as it relates to how many consultant call-outs we had and what do we expect for the week. Every quarter, he brought down the yearly target to find out how are we doing here. Are you meeting the financial targets? Are you meeting your meeting targets? Are you meeting your personal, because we also had personal development targets? Are you conducting and carrying out your personal training that we agreed to? So that is what performance management is about, as opposed to just performance appraisal.
Great, great holistic answer. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to ask some questions, and I know that you are so versed, so I'm going to try to ask the questions and hope that you can answer them very quickly, given the time challenge that we have. Right now, there are some questions coming in from YouTube, and I'm getting them in real time. So this person asked, and then in the hotel sector, they said, no, in the private sector, and there's no work, and the employer decided to call you back, right, out to work, and they want you to clean. They want you to clean, so you are not a maid or janitor or any cleaning section of work, but then they ask you to work. I want you to clean, and you disagree. Can they penalize you for that?
If your layoff time has not ended, no, they cannot penalize you for it. However, if the layoff time is over and they have called you back into work and they're offering you to execute that task and you refuse to do it, then you're refusing to conduct a reasonable task asked to you by your employer.
Okay. Another question asks, right now people were laid off without vacation pay. Can the employee demand their vacation pay?
Well, layoff is not a part of vacation, and vacation pay is only for our vacation. So vacation pay is not a requirement before or during layoff period.
Okay, great. And also we talking about that persons given up the COVID situation, can employers force persons to take vacation? Even though, let's say, you have a vacation schedule for the year, some persons do that, some employers, some companies do that, and your vacation is scheduled for August. But given the fact that you were in March, April, May, June, given the COVID situation, can an employer force you to take that vacation?
No, you cannot. According to the holiday pay vacation must be mutually agreed by the employer and the employee, and either of them should give at least 14 days notice of any change to that schedule.
Okay, great. Those were the quick questions that came in. Also, let's go back to the discussion about the HR functions, because we want to balance it between employee and employer. Now, we covered planning, we covered job recruitment, we covered selection, we covered job enrichment, job enhancement, we covered job satisfaction, we covered appraisals. So let's look at training. And I also want to bring in the young people here and this particular question. Now, I am in a job. The job is not providing training for me. So I'm looking now to enhance myself. What should I do? Should I continue with the job? Should I, sneak and go around and go to university? What should I do?
I won't call it, I want to say go and sneak and go around, but your personal development is your responsibility. And I tell persons at times, sometimes you have to determine whether or not you want to develop yourself so bad and you're passionate about it that you say, well, now is the time that I do it, and you venture in faith to be able to do it. But sometimes it may be just having a conversation with your employer and being able to put back in the time based on the type of job that you're doing, or working out your roster in such a way that you're able to execute the training functions. But before undertaking, but as an individual, if you want to go directly into UE, it may be easy to do so. But for some of us, we may need to start with a 3-month course at BIMAP, or a 2-day course at CDI, or a 1-day course at BIMAP, just to get understand or feel of what it is like to be in the classroom again. What are the anticipations from the institution, for myself, and so on. So I would say your development is your responsibility as an employee.
Okay, so let's flip it now to the employer. Should employers invest in training their employees? I hope so.
Of course, if you don't train your employees, it goes back. Remember, we said to enrichment. That means you have stagnant employees, and that means your productivity, it means your culture, everything else becomes stagnant because you have employees who have not developed themselves, who have not evolved, and change is important. So everything around your entity is changing. Your employee and your entity has not changed. And therefore, at some time, momentum will catch up with you and you will begin to see the reduction in your bottom line as well.
Okay, there's a common thing or said on the internet that, if you treat your employees well, they will not spend all your time on the internet looking for another job. So those are some of the things that employers and our employees need to take in consideration. Also, we want to look at quickly, now we're looking at all the functions. Now this person just sent in something to me quickly, so I just want to read it for you very, very quickly. The lady said, what about an employee who don't want to return to work as yet because of the increase of workload because of laws given? Persons not ready to return to work. I just read it as I got it. So I hope you got the question in there. Let me read it again. You want me to read it again?
I'm trying to get it, but the laws given part I didn't really understand.
Okay. All right, let me try to read it again slowly. What about an employee who don't want to return to work as yet because of the increase of workload because of laws given?
Okay. Okay, so I understand. You mean because of COVID, there are new requirements you have to do, and therefore your task has elongated. Okay. Well, if you don't want to go back to work, that's really no a situation where you decide whether you want to resign because employment is there for you. If you choose not to take it, then it means that you want to end the employment relationship, and then you would need to instigate that process. If you don't want to, as I mentioned in the very beginning, you go out to the job, manage, look at your workload, manage your stress. If you're unable to manage the stress, then it becomes a hazardous environment and you need to have that conversation with the employer. I want to correct something I said a minute quickly,
Sure,
Justin,
sure.
that as it relates to layoff, it is 16 weeks in a 26-week period, which is in half of a year. You should not be away from work on layoff for more than 16 weeks.
Noted. Great. Thank you. Now, when we look at, let's look at the youth now for as we get ready to wrap up. We're looking at the youth. Now, many of us, we go to university, we go to some institution, tertiary level institution, we are qualified, but we don't get the job we want. Speak to that for us. What advice would you give?
That was my life, Justin. You know that we finished school together, and for a long
Yes.
time I didn't get anything. I contemplated going to the gas station. I applied, but I didn't get through because the lady said I spoke too well. What kind of excuse is that? But I didn't get that job. And I said, well, I have to do something for myself. And we said in Barbados that we want to be an entrepreneurial hub. So you may need to look into what your talents are, ask God what your talents are, allow Him to show you what those are, and be able to use those talents. I started out by selling food in the back of my father's van that I cleaned up very nicely when he went to work at a construction site. And my friend and I then realized that we were able to sell in Spitestone, and then we were able to sell in St. Lucie, and then sell on Saturday nights. And it was working pretty well until I got a job I thought I wanted, and I worked there for some time. I was undervalued and underpaid, but I was getting experience. And every experience is an experience that you can use. If it is a gas station or somewhere else, everything is a hurdle or stepping block into that perfect job. You see, I would prefer to hire an individual who worked at a gas station and then moved on and move on, as opposed to a person who sat home and they don't want to go anywhere to work because that job was under or beneath them. It tells me that that person does not understand the importance of ethics as it relates to work ethic. They only understand what they're that person that thinks only about themselves and them and themselves alone, and not the big picture. You want people to understand the grand scheme of things. Is those type of persons that during COVID you cannot get them to say I will be a courier, and therefore you have problems managing and disciplining employees like that.
Okay, great. And also, as you were speaking, I got the sense that you want our people to understand that just because you receive a certification in any field, whether you could be carpentry, masonry, tiling, you could be an accountant, whatever skill you have, it doesn't mean you necessarily will get the job one. It doesn't mean that you put your hands in the air and say, well, Lord, I do all of this and I get done, I'm supposed to lay down there. We can do anything, we can start anywhere. You wanted to work and you didn't get through the gas station, but now look at you, you're not even working in Barbados, you're working in the British Virgin Islands. So you're not looking at staying put. You're not looking at just being dormant, you're looking at doing something to create skill. What about working 2 jobs, 3 jobs? What about the bottom line? Talk to me about being industrious
I
and,
feel
and
like
your situation.
you're talking to me. I feel like
Yeah,
when
of course I'm talking to you.
being industrious is important, but for myself too, and for any person who is overly ambitious, is also balancing your physical and mental health as well. I remember there was one time I was working 3 jobs, because as individuals you want to achieve a lot of things in life, and because you feel as though you got a late start, you didn't get a job right out of UE or anything, you want to catch up. So it's good being industrious, but I would always tell people balance that with your mental and physical health. Understand work-life balance and always take the breaks that are necessary. In government, you have those 2 mental health days. A lot of businesses in Barbados are also evolving to provide you with those mental health days as well. So utilize them where possible.
Okay, great. Because we have a case where we are forced now to be industrious. Whether we like it or not, we are forced to be industrious. We are forced to learn things and do things. Now, I know that I want you to also speak to the things that you do. So as we wrap up, tell me about the other things that you do, Melanie.
Okay, so Melanie does a lot of things. Melanie does property management. Melanie does indoor air quality assessments and water assessments, vibration and noise sampling. I do catering. I think I like food. Um, so, because HR and occupational health and safety are so vast, and outside of those are the areas that I focus on right now, and more so property management as it relates to indoor air quality, because it's a very serious issue for us all across the Caribbean and state building syndrome. Um, and those are the things I pretty much do right now.
Mhm. So I specifically asked that because I know you, I know your bio, I know the things that you would have written, and I saw pieces of excerpts you would have written in the newspaper, the stuff you have on LinkedIn, the stuff that you do. And I will also want to encourage my young people, the people I engage with, to say, well, look, you may start with one thing, it may not work out, but keep training, keep going forward, keep persevering, keep doing stuff, because at the end of the day, you will be a success story. You'll be something that people look back at and say, well, I want to be this person when I grow up as well. So this is the reason why we have you on tonight, Melanie, and we've um, run out of time. I'm sorry that we run out of time. I feel we could talk all the time. And let me just talk about, as we're getting ready to close, about Ron Johnson and what he's been doing, and his sister as well, about branding and putting the B in the HR, and that kind of thing. That is tremendous, because you are who you are, and if you want your business to thrive and to grow and to blossom and to flourish, you really want to make the name stand out. So you don't only talking about all of the pretty things about HR, the flowery things. You really want to be that solid thing. So I want to encourage all of our, especially our young people, to create things, to be creative, to be dynamic, to don't let us be stuck here. The world is our oyster, and we need to really capture that and really do great things. So Melanie James, I really want to thank you. I'm hoping that you can come back to Barbados sometime soon, and not just be quarantined for 14 days, but to work, to enjoy working, to fulfill your passion. And you see my producer have it here, fueled by passion and driven by purpose. I see it here by my producer. I just want to let you know, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us. Here we have the lovely Melanie James. Any parting words, Melanie, before we close?
I just want to encourage young people that sometimes the outlook may look a little daunting, as you said before, and it may be cliche to say that the world is your oyster. I did not think that I was going to leave Barbados to come to another part of the Caribbean, but I understand the importance of being able to pursue the things that you want, even if it means not in the environment that you want to pursue it in. So do not narrow your scope. Allow God to guide you, and always have those core of people that you know that may be in your corner that you can bounce your ideas off of, that can also enrich you along the way, because having that team, having that gang, as they would call it, that positive gang around you, would actually fuel your passion and fuel you to fulfill your purpose.
Okay, great. Because I am really bent on helping persons to move forward, to see their dreams, and to really establish and do great things, and bring on them on shows like these, and to really go around the world and do great things. So I'm happy when my people, I call it my people, like when I found out that Melanie was, working in the British Virgin Islands, I was so excited to see that, to to understand that she's working in a different country, because you don't always find work in your home country. You need to venture out to have the experience and so on. So we are happy to have Melanie with us tonight on TNT. Now, as we close, we just want to let you know that TNT is sponsored tonight by the Barbados Secondary School, the Barbados SDA Secondary School, and also the Bridgetown SDA Primary School. And if you're thinking about 40 September and you're enrolling your child, you're thinking about a place to send your child, the best place to send your child, if they are at the primary level, will be the Bridgetown SDA Primary School, and if they are at the secondary level, the Barbados SDA Secondary School, a Christian institution for you to send your child. And those are our sponsors for tonight. Again, Melanie, it was a pleasure having you. We feel like we can talk forever and forever, but we have to close this segment, and all of the best to you. For all those who join us on YouTube, and all those who join us on Zoom, we just want to let you know that we are happy to have you. We're happy to have you on TNT Thursday Night Talk. For those, we saw some new persons who join us on TNT Thursday Night Talk. My producer has up here something from Richard Branson. He says, take care of your employees. I really love this, and I really love my team. Thursday Night Talk can never be where it is without the team behind me. So kudos to my team. And so Richard Branson said, take care of your employees and they will take care of your business. It's as simple as that. Healthy, engaged employees are your top competitive advantage. And I feel now I even could talk about core competencies and all these, competitive and all those other things. So this is a core competency here. So if you have this, you'll be better than other stuff. So for those of you who are looking, this is the guy who owned the Virgin brand, and he created that, small business. And now it is a world business. We can do this as Black people as well. So again, once again, I just want to thank you for joining us on TNT. We're going to close in prayer. We're going to ask Melanie to close us off in prayer.
Okay, great. Well, most kind and loving Father, thank you for life and me. Thank you for strength. Thank you for bringing us here together in this session where we were able to discuss employer relations, oh God. We know that our work days where we spend most of our time throughout the day, and we are asked to be examples and disciples in the workplace. I ask that you would allow us to truly be able to show forth your goodness and your greatness in our lives with others. Allow us to be able to fulfill our purpose and our passion. Guide us continuously. Give us your continuous blessings. In Jesus' wonderful and precious name, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Again, we want to thank Melanie for joining us, and all my producers, all of my team. My name is Justin Allen, signing off for TNT. Goodbye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you again. Bye-bye.